The ocean is vast, deep, and unknowable. But what if something lurked beneath the waves, something beyond human comprehension? A beast so monstrous that even the bravest warriors would be powerless against it. Fire-breathing, armored, untouchable. This is Pantheon Mythology, and today we're diving into the question, why is Leviathan so feared? If you too want to be fire-breathing, armored, and untouchable, check out Pantheon Apparel, our clothing brand inspired by mythology, legends, and ancient warriors. We ship worldwide and are rated excellent on Trustpilot. Link in the description. Since the dawn of civilization, the ocean has been a symbol of the unknown, vast, untamed. To the ancient world, the sea wasn't just dangerous, it was chaos itself. It swallowed ships, unleashed tempests, and concealed creatures beyond imagination. And among these creatures, none inspired more fear than Leviathan. More than just a mere monster, Leviathan was a living catastrophe. Not just a beast to be slain, but an unstoppable force, primordial terror given form. It was the thing lurking beneath the waves, a presence so overwhelming that even the strongest warriors were powerless against it. The Book of Job gives the most chilling description of this being. Unlike other creatures which can be hunted or subdued, Leviathan is invincible. Its scales are an unbreakable barrier, its jaws can crush anything, and its breath ignites the very air. Job 41 makes it clear. When it rises up, even the mighty are terrified. No weapon can wound it, no man can conquer it. This is not just a monster, it is terror itself. But Leviathan can be more than a physical threat. In Psalms 74:14, it appears as a multi-headed serpent, an adversary that must be vanquished to restore balance. Isaiah 27:1 goes further, declaring, "The Lord will punish Leviathan, the fleeing serpent, with his fierce, great, and mighty sword." This isn't merely a dangerous creature, it's a cosmic enemy of order, so great that only divine power can end it. So what exactly is Leviathan? A real creature, exaggerated into legend? A symbol of chaos, representing nature's untamed fury? Or something more, an ancient force waiting to awaken? Some scholars link it to massive crocodiles or prehistoric sea monsters, while others see it as a remnant of the untamed chaos before the world was ordered. Whatever the truth, one thing is certain: Leviathan is more than myth. It is fear itself coiled beneath the waves, waiting to rise once more. If Leviathan is the lord of the deep, then behemoth is its rival on land. Described in Job 40, behemoth is a colossal, unshakable force with bones like bronze and limbs as strong as iron. It is said to graze like an ox, dwell near rivers, and remain unmovable even against raging waters. Unlike Leviathan, behemoth is not a force of the deep, it is bound to the land, unmoving, unshaken. Some Jewish traditions link it to a massive bull or hippopotamus, while others interpret it as a primordial force of stability, contrasting Leviathan's boundless nature. In Jewish eschatology, particularly in texts like the Apocalypse of Baruch and the Babylonian Talmud, Leviathan and Behemoth are said to fight at the end of time. One version describes them locked in combat until God slays them both, ending their reign over land and sea. Others state that Leviathan will use its fins and strength to overpower Behemoth, only for Behemoth to strike back with its horns, leading to their mutual destruction. Afterward, their flesh is prepared as a feast for the righteous, a meal symbolizing the end of the old world and the beginning of the new. Later traditions claim that Leviathan's impenetrable hide will be repurposed into a great canopy, under which the faithful will celebrate. Yet between the two, Leviathan is the only one truly feared. Behemoth is massive but earthbound. It can be seen, it has limits. Leviathan, however, is a creature of the deep, hidden where no man can follow. The sea, to the ancient world, was a realm of mystery and horror, stretching beyond known borders, swallowing ships and hiding creatures beyond imagination. While Behemoth dominates the land, Leviathan lurks beneath, unseen yet ever present. Even today, the ocean remains largely unexplored. More than 80% of its depths remain unknown. The ancients feared what they could not see, and in that fear, Leviathan was born. A monster not just of size or strength, but of endless possibility, waiting in the abyss, out of sight, out of reach, but never out of mind. Leviathan may be the most infamous sea monster in biblical tradition, but it is not the first. Across cultures, myths tell of colossal serpents rising from the depths, locked in battle with powerful beings. These creatures often symbolize the raw, untamed forces of the natural world, and their destruction is often necessary to establish balance. While Leviathan shares traits with many of them, it stands apart, not just as a beast to be slain, but as something that endures until its appointed end. In the Enuma Elish, the Babylonian creation myth, Tiamat is a vast sea dragon who births an army of creatures to wage war against the younger gods. The storm god, Marduk, ultimately defeats her, slicing her body in half to form the sky and land. Tiamat is more than just a threat. She represents both creation and destruction, her body quite literally shaping the world. Leviathan, by contrast, does not create, it only threatens to consume. While both are bound to the chaotic depths, Leviathan is a solitary force, a singular presence rather than a mother of monsters. The Midgard serpent, Jormungandr, is another legendary sea beast tied to the fate of the world. According to Norse myth, Odin casts Jormungandr into the sea, where it grows so large that it encircles the entire world, biting its own tail. It is destined to re-emerge at Ragnarok, where it will clash with Thor in a battle that dooms them both. While Leviathan's destruction is the end of its existence, Jormungandr's death is a recurring cycle. Its fall brings about the destruction of the old world and the rise of a new one. Leviathan's end is final. Among Leviathan's closest mythological relatives is Loten, a seven-headed sea dragon from Ugaritic texts. In Canaanite mythology, Baal-Hadad, the storm god, battles and slays Loten, securing his rule over the world. Psalm 74:14 references Leviathan as multi-headed, mirroring Loten, which suggests that biblical tradition inherited elements from older Near Eastern myths. Loten, however, was simply an adversary to be overcome, its defeat marking a ruler's victory over the forces of the deep. Leviathan, by contrast, is not just a beast in a god's way. It's an entity that will persist until the moment it is meant to be destroyed. While Leviathan fits this pattern, it's not merely an opponent to be slain. Tiamat, Jormungandr, and Loten all serve as rivals in a greater conflict, their deaths shaping the fate of their respective worlds. Leviathan, however, does not struggle for dominance or act as an enemy to be defeated in battle. It simply exists until its time runs out. So, is Leviathan unique? In many ways, yes. It follows a pattern of sea beasts representing untamed forces, but unlike its counterparts, its story is not one of struggle or conquest. Where others fight against a fate or mark the transition into a new era, Leviathan has no such role. It is not a challenger to be slain, nor a test of strength to be overcome. It is simply a presence waiting for its appointed end, existing outside of the reach of all but the one force that will ultimately erase it. As Christianity evolved, so did interpretations of Leviathan. No longer just a monstrous sea creature, it was increasingly seen as a manifestation of evil itself, associated with Satan, the Antichrist, and the forces of hell. This shift redefined Leviathan not as a chaotic force of nature, but as an active agent of corruption and destruction. By the medieval period, demonologists and theologians placed Leviathan in hell's hierarchy, often portraying it as a gatekeeper of the abyss, consuming the damned and ensuring their suffering was eternal. This image appeared in Renaissance demonology, where Leviathan became one of the great demons of hell, ruling over deep waters and acting as a barrier between the mortal world and the infernal realm. Certain Christian texts, particularly those influenced by Thomas Aquinas and Peter Binsfield, linked Leviathan to the sin of envy. It was believed that just as the sea swallows everything, Leviathan devours the souls of the envious, dragging them into the darkness as punishment for their jealousy and resentment. This connection transformed Leviathan from a beast of destruction into a moral symbol, representing the dangers of unchecked desire and the consuming nature of sin. In the writings of St. Augustine and later apocalyptic theology, Leviathan was sometimes associated with the beast from the sea in the Book of Revelation, a monstrous entity empowered by Satan to deceive and corrupt the world. This interpretation reinforced Leviathan's role as a demonic force tied to the end times, making it not just a terror of the deep, but a direct instrument of evil. These evolving interpretations solidified Leviathan's place in Christian demonology, not just as a terrifying creature, but one of hell's most fearsome entities, a being that was no longer simply monstrous, but truly malevolent. Leviathan's legacy extends far beyond ancient texts, continuing to inspire literature, mythology, and modern storytelling. From religious epics to cosmic horror and blockbuster entertainment, the image of the colossal, unknowable sea monster remains as powerful as ever. John Milton's Paradise Lost further expands on this imagery, using Leviathan as a metaphor for Satan's overwhelming size and power. Milton describes Satan lying stretched out across the lake of fire, as vast as Leviathan, evoking the same terrifying scale that made the biblical monster an emblem of the uncontrollable. Here, Leviathan represents not just physical enormity, but the sheer force of rebellion and destruction, paralleling Satan's war against heaven. Leviathan's influence extends into cosmic horror, particularly the works of H.P. Lovecraft. In stories like The Call of Cthulhu and Dagon, Lovecraft introduces colossal sea creatures that defy human comprehension, lurking in the depths where no mortal was meant to tread. These beings, much like Leviathan, exist outside human understanding, evoking insignificance, dread, and the terrifying realization that some things cannot be fought, only endured. Leviathan's role as a primeval force of the deep serves as an early blueprint for these eldritch horrors, shaping the way later writers depicted the ocean as a place of existential terror. In Herman Melville's Moby Dick, the great white whale is not just an animal, it is the unknowable force of the ocean itself. Ahab's relentless pursuit mirrors the biblical theme of mankind's futile struggle against a power far greater than himself. Though not explicitly named Leviathan, the novel draws heavily from its biblical and mythological roots, using the whale to represent nature's unstoppable and indifferent power. Despite centuries of reinterpretation, Leviathan remains a powerful symbol of the unknown and unstoppable. Whether as a biblical monster, a force of hell, an eldritch horror, or a godlike sea beast, it embodies the deep-seated fear of what lurks beneath the surface. As long as the ocean remains vast, unexplored, and mysterious, Leviathan will never truly disappear. It will always wait in the abyss, a reminder that not all monsters can be conquered. So then, why is Leviathan so feared? Leviathan is more than just a monster. It is a symbol of everything beyond human control. It is vast, unknowable, and unstoppable, lingering in the depths as a reminder that some forces exist beyond mortal reach. Unlike other legendary beasts, Leviathan is not locked in battle for power or dominance, it is tied to something far greater. In biblical tradition, it is a cosmic adversary, destined to battle behemoth at the end of time. In Christian demonology, it becomes a force of corruption, swallowing the damned and dragging them into the abyss. It is a beast not of war, but of devouring, consuming not just flesh, but souls, order, and certainty itself. This is why Leviathan is feared, not just because it is powerful, but because it represents chaos, destruction, and the limits of control. Whether seen as a monster, a demon, or something far older, it remains a force that cannot be ignored. It does not need to conquer. Its existence alone is enough.